This is Chapter 5 of Hank the Cow Dog and the Case of the Mysterious Voice. Okay, Chapter 5, Loper's Present. We didn't have any crackers, but we had co-op dog food, and I knew where to find it. Drover followed me up the hill to the machine shed. I went straight to the overturned Ford hubcap that served as our dog pool. I refuse to rave and rant about how insulting it is that our people feed the entire security division out of an old hubcap. They're too cheap to buy their dogs a decent food bowl, and that's really sad. A lot of ranches serve their dogs fresh sirloin steak on a china plate. It makes a statement. See, it tells the world these dogs are special and we know it. They work around the clock, protecting our cattle, our equipment, our children. Everything we own is in this world. From dark and snicker forces, and by George, we're proud of them. Sinister forces. I guess it should be not snicker forces. Yes, that's the way your better grade of ranch dogs ought to be treated, with respect and maybe even a little bit of reverence. But I'm employed on a cheap outfit that... Do you know where they got the hubcap? They didn't go to the Ford dealer in town and order a new one from the parts department. Oh no, that kind of extravagance might have thrown the entire ranch into Operation Bank Rubble. Loper found it on the side of the road, in the ditch. I know I shouldn't let this bother me, and most of the time I take it with a grain of sand, but every once in a while it just comes flooding out. Sorry, it won't happen again. Where were we? Oh yes, Dink the parrot. I had taken time out of my busy schedule to give him an introduction into life on our ranch. Did it do any good? It was hard to know. Before my presentation, he looked like a dumb bird. After I'd schooled him for half an hour, he didn't look any dumber. So maybe it did him some good. Not that I cared. Educating birds isn't part of my job. I'll give him a few tips every now and then, but pulling the entire bird population up the mountain of knowledge isn't something you'll see me do or wanting to do. Have we discussed my position on birds? Maybe so, but let's go over it again. As a whole, they are noisy, messy, and disrespectful of ranch property. Every summer, billions of them hang out in ranch trees where they twitter and cheep and do their meaningless birdie things. They drive me nuts, but a dog can't spend his whole life barking at the little morons. I met a pelican once, and he turned out not such a bad guy, but ugly. Wow, the word ugly was invented the day Pelican showed up. What was that guy's name? I don't remember. So maybe we weren't as good friends as I thought. Let's just skip it. The point is, I have very little use for birds of any kind, but all at once we had a parrot on this ranch. If he kept his mouth shut and minded his own business, he and I would get along okay. If he ran his beak and caused trouble, he would find no friends in the security division. Anyway, Drover and I made our way up the hill to the machine shed, where we launched ourselves into the daily dismal routine of trying to extract nourishment from the slop they leave in our dog bowl, which you already know wasn't a bowl at all, but a rusted, stinking Ford hubcap. It contained a substance called co-op dog food. They sell it at the feed store, and it comes in a 50-pound bag that's made of all the stuff that you can't feed to cows, hogs, goldfish, or pet canaries. They dump it into a big vat, add some sawdust and grease, and bag it up. No human would eat the stuff, but they feed it to their dogs and feel no shame at all. I mean, when we look up from the bowl and give them the expression that says, "Is this all?" it makes them mad. And they start muttering about ungrateful dogs. Oh well, food is only food. But here's a piece of inside information. Dogs who are fed co-op dog food find it very hard to keep a professional attitude about chickens. I'll say no more. So Drover and I crunched our way through the pitiful ration of dry, tasteless dog food kernels. The day had warmed up by then, so we held a meeting of the executive community in the shade of the machine shed. There, we kept a close eye on the Snicklefritz, Snark, Snobbly, Perchops, kept a close eye on events down in the yard, shall we say, and perhaps I dozed off a time or two. Yes, I'm sure I did. The morning spent with Drover and Dink the parrot had pretty muchly worn me down to a nubbin. And forget that unfortunate episode with the cat. I needed some rest to restore my precious bodily fluids, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I needed sleep, so I slept. I woke sometime in the late afternoon, when Data Control sent out an all-points bulletin, APB. I was sitting in the ready room when the announcement blared over the speakers. Attention! We are tracking an unidentified vehicle on radar incoming. Launch all dogs. Repeat, launch all dogs. I grabbed my gear, dashed outside, and dived into the cockpit of my XM-235, whose rocket engines were already humming. Our ground crew does a great job. Moments later, I was streaking through the cloudless afternoon sky in a hot pursuit of, it was a Loper back from his trip to town. Haha, no big deal. Just a routine interception procedure. This happens 2 or 3 times every day. A lot of mutts don't trouble themselves to do those scrambles in the heat of the day. Drover, for instance, he was a no-show, but I responded to every alert. You never know who might be in the next car or pickup that turns at the mailbox and comes creeping down the road towards the house. Today it was Loper. Tomorrow it might be a burglar, an enemy, spy, or some kind of alien space monster disguised as a postal employee. They are clever beyond our wildest dreams, and we must remain alert. I barked Loper a greeting and gave him an escort all the way to the house. By the time his feet hit the ground, I had splashed secret encoding fluid on both tires on the right side of his pickup. I was on my way to the left rear tire when he reached the yard gate, and I heard him say, "What in the world? Slim, come here." I canceled the encoding procedure and headed for the gate. Just as Slim came sledging around the southwest corner of the house, moving at his usual pace, slow, Loper's arm and finger sharp out and pointed. "What is that?" "It's a parrot." "I see it's a parrot, but what is he doing on my back porch?" Slim arrived at the gate, removed his hat, and wiped the sweat away from his face. "Well, it don't look like he's doing much of anything, just sitting there." Loper wasn't amused. "Where did he come from? Who did this to me?" "Well, Deputy Kyle happened by. he happened by, and he happened to have a parrot in his car, and he happened to think that I needed one. Is that your story?" Slim shrugged. "Well, that's pretty much what happened, all right. I tried to tell him you wouldn't be interested in paying $1,000 for an exotic, high-powered talking bird. Well, you got that right. So he left it as a gift for Father's Day, I think it was." Loper was fuming. He glared at his feet, then glared at the sky. "Somebody needs killing. I don't know if it's you or Bobby Kyle, or both of you. That bird goes." He stormed over to the porch, threw his hands in the air, and yelled, "Hi-ya, get out of here!" Old Dink just sat there, didn't even flinch. That made Loper madder than ever. And he whirled back to Slim. "Can't he fly? What's wrong with him?" Slim's shoulders rose and fell. "I don't know. Maybe y'all have bonded and he don't want to leave." This is the picture of Loper and Slim and Dink the parrot. Loper stomped back to the gate and aimed a finger at Slim. "The bird goes. I'll put it with the cattle, horses, cats, dogs, 2 children, and a connivering hired hand, but no birds." "Loper, he can talk." Loper's eyes almost budged out of his head. "So can you. I don't want to adopt either one of you. Get that bird." He didn't finish his sentence because just then Sally Mae's car pulled up in the driveway behind the house. We'd all been so occupied with Loper screeching, nobody heard her coming. The instant she stepped out of the car, her eyes were on that parrot. She was smiling, and she said, "What a beautiful bird." I happened to be looking at Loper that moment, and a terrible expression appeared on his face. "Hon, there's been a mistake." Too late. She swept through the yard gate and went straight to the porch and began admiring Dink. She turned back to Loper and said, "You know, I've always wanted a parrot." Loper was mouse-trapped, and he knew it. He turned back to Slim. "And boys, you talk about killer eyes," he hissed. "You'll pay for this. I don't know how or when, but you'll pay." By that time, Slim's grin had escaped the teeth that were trying to hold it down. "Hey, Loper, you're trying to hang on the wrong man. I was just an innocent bystander." "Paybacks are terrible, Slim." With that, Loper left our little gathering and stormed into the house, and the parrot started talking. "Hi-ya! Get out of here! What's wrong with him? Can't he fly?" Sally Mae was shocked and delighted. She looked at Slim. "My stars! That sounded just like Loper's voice. Does the bird have a name?" "Dink." "Dink? What kind of a name is that?" She turned an admiring gaze on the bird. "But him's a beautiful bird, isn't him?" "Yes, him is, and he can talk so well." "Yes, him is, and he can talk so well." Then when Lady of the House starts speaking baby language to a parrot, it means that the bird is in like Flynn and fixing to get promoted from a yard bird to a house bird. He did. Sally Mae was so impressed with Dink, she moved his perch into the kitchen so he could keep her company while she started supper. And that's the end of chapter 5.
And this is Ruth and Grandma Carla, and we love you.